to your events calendar page. This is your internal page as staff. So you're going to see your calendar, all the events that you have kind of upcoming and what's going on. So you'll notice the couple icons underneath each event. That's going to be this little Localhop pin logo. That's going to be a registration indicator. So that means that this event has registration associated to it. So you'll see that if I mouse over, you can see how many people have registered for the event versus how many spots are still available. You'll also see this little colored label associated with all of these events. Green means that it is published live to the calendar that's on your website. The other colors are going to be yellow, which means that it is in draft mode, or you'll see a gray, which means that it's scheduled to go live on a specific date and time. For right now, I'm going to start with the organization tab and kind of work our way down. So bear with me, there's a couple things on my screen that you will not see on yours, one of those being create an organization. You're going to see your first option as profile. So when you click on that, it's going to bring you to your library profile page. So you're going to have your library name, a little description, contact information, if you have a logo and a banner that you would like to upload, and your address. So you can come in and change this information at any time. It's obviously dependent on what your needs might be, but that's going to be your profile. You also will have the option for users. So this is going to be your staff. Whoever you want to give access to, you can do that. You can have an infinite number of users. When you add a user, you're just going to be putting in their name and their email address. And then once they're created, you can go ahead and limit their roles and what their rights are. So super admins have full access to everything, including billing. And then you can kind of limit it per module from there. So kind of dependent on what each person does at the library and how much access you want to give them. Moving on to our form builder, you can associate forms to Localhop programs, events, or room reservations, or specific rooms. But by default, Localhop will always ask registrants for their name and contact information, so phone number and email address. So if that's all you need, you don't have to put that in a form. But if you wanted to gather specific information, like what's their favorite color, are they 18 years or older, what's their favorite animal, you could do that. So we have, I'll show you this demo form that asks what's your favorite color and what month is your birthday in. So with each form, if you guys are familiar with like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, different platforms like that, it's very similar. So your text field is going to be kind of your single line response. Your text area is more of that paragraph style response. Your drop down, as you can see here, is allowing your patrons to select from a list of many. And then your box is more if you have a waiver form, privacy policy, terms of use, anything like that you want to upload a document to provide to your patrons and have them check the box that they have read and agreed to it, or check the box, maybe that they're 18 years or older, anything like that, anything that might pertain specifically to an event or a room that you have at your library. Notifications. Right now, we just have the option to put in one email address, and that email address would be notified anytime a person or group registers for an event, or anytime a room reservation is made. You can leave this blank, or you can put in a generic like info@getlocalhop.com, or a help email, anything like that. Moving into age groups. You can create your own age groups. Localhop does provide 5 default age groups, and those I think are moved over here, but it's these infant, toddler, youth, teen, adult, and senior. Those are going to be the only 5 age groups that show up on a community calendar, but for your library calendar, which we call a My Calendar, with just my events, you can create any age group that you want, and it will populate on your calendar. You can also associate a color to an age group, and then we do color code by age group. So if you wanted to do that, you have that option. Moving on to additional venues, this is just where you can save specific addresses so that you don't have to constantly type them in manually when you're creating an event. So if you have venues that you are often using for programs or events, you can just save those here. Great. Moving back, I'll go back to our events calendar. Again, it's showing you all the events that are upcoming. For the sake of the demo, I'm just going to select one of these. This looks the same for when you are creating a new event. So you're going to start at step 1, which is your event setup. You're going to put in an event name, give it an event type. Right now, our options are event, class, or camp. This is not viewable by the public, but keep this in mind because I will touch back on this when we get to our calendar snippets. So then you have the option to put in an event description. Not necessarily templates, but you do have the option to like boldface, italicize, underline, insert hyperlinks, all of that. And then if you're doing a virtual event, you can just check the box. And once you check that box, you'll see that these 6 optional fields do appear. Your streaming label, this is going to be the link to the actual platform that you're using. So that could be anything. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Zoom links that are extremely lengthy. So we have this option for a URL label to which you can just make Zoom. And what will happen is now your patrons will just see Zoom and it will take them to this link. So it just acts as a hyperlink. And then you have the option to put in phone number, meeting ID, password, whatever is related to your event. And then if you want to give them additional information, you can put in here, like you want to talk about the guest speakers that are going to be presenting, if you wanted to just notify everyone to mute themselves upon entry, anything like that. So if you choose to only show to registered users, then all of this information will be hidden on your website or on your calendar. So once they register in their confirmation email, then all of this information will appear. They'll get it in their confirmation email and their reminder email, including this. So this statement is actually false. So sorry about that. If you're doing an in-person event, you'll have a specific location. Again, if you've saved any additional venues, you'll see all of those here appear in that drop-down. Can you guys see my drop-down? Actually, sometimes when I share my screen, the drop-down does not share. So if not, I trust that you trust me that there is a drop-down with multiple different addresses. As you can see, I just changed it. So moving on to categories. This is our demo account, so we have some fun categories in here, but mostly I recommend putting in maybe 2 to 3 categories that kind of fit your event. This just helps students maybe search by things that they're interested in. Same with age groups, obviously whatever pertains to this event. And then an image. So if you have an image that doesn't quite fit this size, it may look a little funky here, but it will show up properly on the event page itself. So don't worry about it. It's not going to get shrunk or morphed or cropped weird on the actual page. From there, you'll hit save and continue. You're moving on to step 2, which is date and time. So here we've set this up as a recurring event. So if I click add date and time, you do have the option to create an event that recurs daily, weekly, monthly, even yearly. And if I do that weekly, I can say, this event is every Monday at 8 a.m., or it can be Mondays and Wednesdays. It can end on a specific day, or maybe it's just a 6-week program and I want to change it to this.
What did I just send that to? Oops.
Oops. Sorry, Alyssa. I'm just going to mute you. Cool. So then if you wanted to set up local hop ticketing, you can select that option. And what will happen, edit this, you'll get the option to edit the configuration. So your button label is going to just be the verbiage that your patrons see. So is this button going to say register, buy tickets, or sign up? It's going to depend on your event, obviously what's pertaining to your event. This one, we're just going to use register. Then you can add a form, again, depending on what the event is. If you created a custom form, if there's specific information that you need to gather from your patrons, you can select that form here. And then you'll put in your total event capacity. Now, this is the total number of people that can, in fact, attend the event, and you can limit it that way. The waitlist works for all free events. If you have a paid event, we do not hold any credit card information, so we cannot have a wait list because we can't automatically charge people to move them up on the guest list. So the wait list is specifically for free events, but the local hop system does a check every 5 minutes. So if there is a spot that opens up on the guest list and the system notifies itself, and then it will move up the next person or group from the wait list onto the guest list, and then it'll notify that person that they have been, in fact, added to the guest list and that they should attend the event. So I'll save that. Once you set up the configuration, you do have to go in and add ticket types. The reason it's separated is because you can have multiple ticket types. We've seen people or libraries that are doing fundraisers and they have a VIP ticket that's $100, a general admissions ticket that's $20, early bird tickets, they can be all different price ranges. There can be a different amount available of each ticket type. So it's really dependent on your event, but you do have to at least associate one ticket type if you're doing registration. So what that would look like is you're giving a ticket name, a price if that's relevant, and then the ticket quantity. So how many of these tickets are available? In this instance, it's just the one, so it's going to match the total event capacity at 100 persons. And then a little description. The description also can be left blank if it's really vague. It's just a little inside tip. And then when you're creating a ticket type, it's going to default to become available at the time that you are creating it and end at the time that the event starts. So you can change that if you need to, but that's the default. So you'll hit save, and then you'll notice that this was already created, but you'll see all your ticket types show up here. Once you have set up the ticket types, you can then view the guest list. So you'll notice that this button becomes available once you do so. And then once people start registering for your event, you'll see all their information here, their name, their contact information. And if you click on their name, you will see those form questions. You'll see their answers if you associated a form to it. You can also unregister, or you can edit information. Say they didn't get the email, maybe they put their email in wrong when they registered. You can edit that. So you can also download to print. When you download it, it will come to you as an Excel file, and it will, or I think it comes as a CSV file, and it will also include any custom form questions and answers that you might have. So once you have all of that set up, in your date and time, your registration, your ticketing, everything's configured. You have the option here. Now, this event is already published, so I can't take it back unless I completely delete the event. But when I'm creating a new event, I would have the option to save and publish, which would immediately push this event live to my calendar. I could save it as a draft, which would keep it internally on my calendar within Localhop, but would not show it to the public. Or I could schedule to publish. So I could save it as a draft, but I would be able to select a date and time that I want this event to go live. So if I'm planning out all my events for Q2 and I want them to go live next week, I would just schedule that. And then you would just hit save, and it's going to bring you into your confirmation page. And then it's going to give you a little synopsis of the event that you've just created, so you can kind of take a look at that. And then we also provide this preview and sharing option. So once the event is published, you'll have a link that can take you directly to your event page, so you can kind of take a look at it, make sure it looks good, or you can share directly to your socials. So even after an event is live or published, you can make edits, you can change things out, but it is already on the calendar. So just as an FYI. Moving on, the events list is just another view of the calendar. It's just your list view. It's going to show you all of your events you have upcoming in chronological order. So you see March 5th is the next event that I have upcoming, that Storytime with the Dragon that we just viewed. I can still see how many people have registered versus how many spots are available. I can go in and edit this, or I can duplicate this event. And when I duplicate this event, it's going to copy over all of the event information that I put in. The only thing that now I have to do is save and continue and move on to a new date and time. So it's just a little bit of a time saver. Next, I'm going to move into our calendar snippets. Localhop provides these snippets so that the calendar is on your website. It's coded onto your website. It's not pulling your patrons off the page. All your metrics are from your website. So it's a little bit different than some of the other library software, but we find it to be a little more helpful. So you have the option for a calendar, a mini calendar, and a mini list. So your calendar is your basic month view, your normal calendar view of all of your events. Your mini calendar is just a shrunken down version of that allows your patrons to kind of click on that and view sort of day to day. And then your mini list. So someone asked about the event images showing up in the list view. So your list, we have two different list views. So your panel view will show your event image if you have one. But this is a horizontal view. The list view does not show the image. So unless your patrons are clicking on the event and going to the actual event page, they won't see that image in the list. Just as an FYI. I forget who asked it, but it was someone. You can customize it a little bit. You can decide how many events are going to show, if you want to show the description or not. All of these calendars can be customized. So there's some guided and full CSS here. If you or your website administrator can make specific changes that you need, you can customize the color, the font, different sizes of the calendar. So it can fit the theme of your website and look really native. If you guys are doing a community calendar, that is basically giving you full control of which organizations can post to your calendar. So you can decide which organizations that are. A lot of libraries are partnering with local churches, city government, downtown development authorities, rec centers, youth centers, senior centers, any sort of organization that has events that are open to the public. One other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, I'll use this as an example, but the events, classes, and camps. Again, this is not visible to the public, but you can organize this however you want. So this is just the way that it was developed when we first built the software like 7 years ago. But right now we're seeing a lot of libraries that are making their own internal processes. So I've seen a lot of libraries that are showing events or showing a calendar for just events, and they're coordinating all of their events to be their youth events. And then all of their classes are teen events. And then their camps are adult events. So then in turn, what's happening is they're having 3 different calendars on their website, but it's easy for their patrons to click on the adult calendar, the teen calendar, the youth calendar. So just different options, out of the box ideas that others may like to use. I'll skip reports for now and move into room management. So if we are interested in room reservation, I'm going to dive into that now. Was there any questions on anything so far? No? Oh, Katie, that was your question? Good, I'm glad I answered that one for you. All right, so rooms. All right, so adding a new room looks the same as when you're editing an existing room. So you have your room name, your room type. Again, this is for your staff internally. This is not visible to the public. A little room description, a form if you want to, again, ask specific questions before the public or your staff can reserve this room. We have the option to associate a fee for a reservation. You can charge per session or per hour. And then we have the option for you to allow the public to reserve this room. So if you allow the public to reserve it, then you are also given the option to require approval for the request. So if you check yes, that means someone from the library staff has to approve that reservation request when it comes in. And it will sit in pending status until it's either approved or denied. If you want to require a deposit, we have that option. And then there's some limitations that you can implement on a per room basis. So the minimum block time is the smallest amount of time that this room can be reserved. We see this quite often for larger rooms, auditorium, big conference rooms. Maybe it has to be reserved for a minimum of 2 hours, or it's not worth the time. On the flip side of that, there's the maximum time block where this room cannot be reserved for more than 4 hours at a time. For your minimum prior create time, that is how far in advance that your patrons are allowed to create that reservation. Meaning that if I set this to 1 day, they have to create this reservation within the next 1 day. For the maximum prior create time, that would mean that they have to have like a 1 day gap. So they can't reserve this room until 1 day has passed. I hope that's clear. And then same thing goes for prior edit, prior cancel time. Just how much time in advance do they have to edit the room or to cancel the room? Depending on what your limitations look like, excuse me, depending on what your limitations look like, you can allow walk-ins and give that a little grace period. And then you can also have what I like to call a subscriber list. So you can add people or emails to this room to be notified when a reservation is created. So this is helpful if you do allow the public to reserve the room and you want a specific staff member at the library to be notified when a request comes in. It doesn't have to be someone who has a local hop account. It can be anyone in the library. It can be any email address. And then same thing goes for the facilities email. The only difference between these two is the actual email that is sent out. The reservation email is just kind of a carbon copy of what the reserver receives, like their confirmation email. Whereas the facilities email is a whole block of all the information: who's reserving the room, when they're reserving the room, what room they're reserving, what's the layout of the room, all of the information. So once you have that set up, you'll hit save, and then you'll have the option to add a parent room. So a parent room, if you have any room in your library that can be divided into 2 or more smaller rooms, you're going to first create the parent room, which would be like your multi-purpose room. And then you would go ahead and create, say, room A. And when you are creating room A, you would add a parent room, which would be your multi-purpose room. So that's just an example, but that obviously does not pertain to everyone. So if it doesn't pertain to you, then you just bypass that whole step. And then you'll set room availability. So this is any time of day, any day of the week that this room is available to be reserved. So majority of the time that might be your hours of operation, but sometimes that can be a little bit different if you want, the last reservation of the day to end an hour before closing, or if there's some gaps, like this room on Monday is closed from 12 to 2. Maybe that's for cleaning. There's a 2-hour window for, a janitorial staff to come in and do a deep cleaning of the room, especially, given the world the past couple of years. So obviously depending on your organization and the room itself. Moving on, you will add a room layout. You do have to have at least one room layout per room. This is a cute picture of Fadi's family, but there is that option to upload a custom image. So I tell most libraries to go and, grab an image, take a picture of the room, and you can upload it here. It gives your staff, your patrons, anyone who might be reserving the room a better idea of what they're going to be getting. And then it's just not as, it's more personal, it's more relatable. So then you can give a description and maximum seating capacity to better sort out what room might be best for a specific event. And then moving on, you have room equipment. This is anything that is fixed to the room. So if you have a whiteboard on the wall, a TV that's mounted to the wall, a big conference table that is not going to be moved in and out, right? Anything that's fixed to the room, I would list out here. Again, it allows your staff, your patrons to be able to search for a room that kind of fits their needs. With that said, we do have the option for portable equipment. So this is equipment that can be reserved in conjunction with a room reservation. So coffee machine, 3D printer, if you have extra chairs, if there's a TV on wheels, projector, anything that might be used in addition to a room reservation, you can add that here, and you can also associate a fee to use it if that's relevant to you. Unavailable dates. These are just going to be days, like mostly holidays, as you can see here in the list. Holidays, days that maybe you're closed for construction or just, for whatever reason it might be, that all rooms in the library are going to be unavailable that day. You can put in the date, block it off, and then no one will be able to reserve any room on that day. Terms of use, here, if you have a room policy, again, whether this is internal or public facing, you can upload this here, and then it does, as your staff members or the public go to reserve this room or a room, they will have to agree to the terms of service. Next, we have room reservation settings. Now, these are settings and limitations that are agnostic across the whole library. So different settings, different limitations that you want to implement for your patrons, say. So most of these are more relevant if you are allowing your patrons to reserve rooms online. If not, bear with me, we're just going to keep going through. So the number of maximum active reservations. So if you set this to 3, maybe you're only allowing your patrons to have 3 active reservations at a time. They can't have 4 active reservations. The system won't let them do it. Same thing goes for reservations in a time increment. If I say, you can have as many reservations as you want, but you can only have 1 reservation a day. You can set that limitation, or you can set it weekly or monthly, again, depending on what your policies might be. And then here, we also have the option to kind of limit them on a room type basis. So again, that room type that we had to associate when creating the room that's not visible to the public, but internally you might say, okay, study rooms, there's no limit. Anyone can come into a study room, first come, first serve basis. But for our conference rooms, those only 1 reservation a day, or only 1 reservation a week, 7 days. So again, totally dependent on what you want to do. Very customizable. All of this is very customizable to your library. Reminder times, again, are specific if you are going to be allowing your patrons to reserve rooms and you're requiring approval for those reservations. If you set your reminder to 1 day, let's say Courtney makes a reservation for a room at Localhop Library, I get a confirmation that my request has been submitted, and now I'm just kind of waiting for it to be approved or denied. Fadi is with the Localhop Library, and for 24 hours, 1 day, he is so busy he doesn't get a chance to approve or deny my request. He'll get a reminder 24 hours if that request is still in pending status. So then reminder 2, let's say another 8 hours goes by and he still hasn't approved or denied that reservation, he will get another reminder. It's kind of just trying to cover yourself if you get busy or you have a limited staff that's able to approve rooms, kind of trying to make that a little more foolproof. And then your facilities reminder email, again, that facilities email is a little bit different, but if I set this to 1 day, that's a 24-hour time period. The email goes out, and I think 4 a.m., so a time where there's likely to be no traffic on your web or on your rooms reservations. So if I am marked as a facilities staff member, or I have other facilities staff on my team, they're going to get an email that's going to include everything for the next 24 hours. So what rooms are reserved, who's reserving those rooms, again, all the layout information, the portable equipment that's associated to their reservation, any notes that they've left, all of the information, right? And then the final thing is that Localhop captures all these limits based on email address. So if you require your patrons to log into Localhop, which you do not have to do, then their email address will automatically populate as they go to reserve a room. The benefit to requiring login is that your patrons can go into their account and make any changes to their reservation. They can edit, they can cancel, they can kind of manage themselves without having to go through anyone at the library staff. You don't have to require this. If you say no, your patrons still have the option to create a Localhop account, but it's not required. We don't do anything with their information. It is literally there just for them to go in and manage their reservations and to see what programs they've signed up for. But again, that is up to you as well. Final thing here is a facilities notification. Again, it's that same facilities email that I've been talking about, but you have the option here to select a specific time frame of when you want to, of what reservations you want to see. So let's say for the month of March, I want to see everything that happened. I can just hit send, and anyone who is a facility staff member will get that information. Moving on to our reservation calendar. So what's going to happen is this is going to be a default to the day view, which shows you all the times here and these little white boxes, which are the times that these rooms are available. So I can click on this box and go ahead and create a reservation right from here because I know that this time is available. I can also switch to the month view and get a little over. There's no reservations for this month. Nice. Go back to February. I can see a month calendar of all the reservations that I had at my library. There's also the reservation list, which shows all upcoming reservations in a chronological order. As you can see, we have none, but it's also, you can see reservations that have been canceled, that are still pending. Maybe you need to go and approve or deny that request. You can see if there is a monetary value owed for the room. You can see if it's been paid for, if it was for free. You kind of get all the information right in your list. Then there's a reservation search, where you can search by keyword. I think email address is the easiest. You have someone like, hey, I thought I made a reservation. I never got my confirmation email. They probably did get their confirmation email and just deleted it, but you can go ahead and search that up for them. Or if you just wanted to see what was going on, you can search by specific date range or by keyword. And then here there's a create a reservation option. So in addition to that day view, clicking on an open space to reserve a room, you can search for available rooms here. So if I know I want to make a reservation for next Tuesday and I need it at 9:30 in the morning, I can search. I can see all the rooms that are available and I can kind of select my time. So I need it, let's say, from 9 till 10 and select this room. So now I have it on March 8th from 9 to 10. I see that this room is a $20 fee. So if I'm making this as a staff member, I can mark this as an internal reservation and all fees are going to be waived because we're not going to charge ourselves to have a meeting in our own library, right? So we'll hit continue. We'll select the layout that we need. If we wanted to have some setup or breakdown time, we could do that. How many people are expected? We can put in that number. We continue. We see what equipment is associated with this room. We know that this room comes with a projector and a whiteboard. So maybe I need a standing desk and a microphone because I'm going to give a little presentation. I can hit continue and then I'll put in all of my information. So I'll put in my information here, and that was just saved in my browser. That's not saved through Localhop, but just this is for the youth staff. So maybe they know that all of the youth librarians and anyone supporting the youth staff will be in this meeting. I can choose here to notify facilities. That means, again, anyone on that facility staff is going to get that email specifically about this reservation. Or I can just leave it blank or leave it unchecked. And then you see the final total, which again, because I checked that internal use box, that the fee was waived, so I can make this reservation. So then I get the confirmation, that this room has been successfully reserved, and I can close this out. And then when I go back to my list now, I see that additional reservation. Any questions on rooms? No? All right. We will continue on. So let me do a time check. Okay, we got a couple more minutes still. The communications portal, as you can see, this is in beta testing. So we have a handful of libraries right now that are supporting us and testing out this feature and giving us some feedback. So just as a real brief presentation, just to show you guys real quick, this feature allows you to kind of communicate with your patrons outside of just a confirmation and reminder email. So if you want, say I'm in Michigan, so the weather's crazy, there's might be a snow day and we have to cancel our events for the day because no one can drive on the roads, right? In that case, I would search by date range. I could, select today, and all the events that are happening today, I can just check the box and kind of move through the process to send out an email. Maybe there is story time with the dragon. The dragon is running late to this event and I want to notify everyone. I can check the box for that day, hit continue. It's going to give me a list of everyone who's registered. Fadi right now is the only registrant for that event, but you get the idea. You can choose everyone, give it a subject, and just say, 10-minute delay. Depending on what your email provider is, your sender could be coming from specifically your library, but you can change the reply to be a very specific person at the library, maybe whoever is in charge of Storytime with the Dragon. You want all the replies to come directly to them, and you can just say, Dragon is running behind. We will begin 10 minutes after. Whatever the message might be, whatever the wording might be, you can design that here. And then you would just hit send. And then outside of that, there's a customization style. So you can kind of put in your font family, font size. You can really brand it towards your library. There's, again, your library banner would pop up in the email that's sent out to the patrons. So they really get the feel that it's coming from you. And then your communications list is just going to show you all of the communications that have gone out. The last thing that you guys will see is your billing and payments option. So clicking on this, starting with your account. Localhop uses Stripe in the back end. If you're familiar with Lyft, the ride-sharing company, Stripe is the same company that manages all of their funds. So Localhop does not actually do any of the transaction. We don't touch the money. We don't touch your account. We don't touch your patrons' credit card funds. We don't see anything of it. We just have integrated it so it's seamless for you as a library staff to input all of your information and kind of view what the transactions have been, but it's not actually going through Localhop. So if you do plan on doing any paid features, whether that's you're charging for rooms or you're charging for event or program fees, you do have to put in your merchant and your payout information. Otherwise, your patrons will get an error on their end. So they would put in their credit card information and they would keep getting an error, and they would think that it's them, but really it's you. To be frank. No, I'm just kidding. But because this is a Stripe account, Stripe won't take their money unless they have a place to put it. So until you put in this information, they won't take money from your patrons. And then from there, you just have the option to view, if this will load, your transactions, kind of your balance. I think the transfers are default to a 24-hour business day window, but that can be edited. We would just work with you directly if that's something that you need. If you wanted it bi-weekly, bi-monthly, we can make those changes for you. So that is the gist of Localhop. I've walked you through a lot in a short amount of time. So if you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat now. Okay, we got a couple. Let's see, Fadi has answered Katie's question. Katie, we're working on, right now, we are building out a activities pass module feature, kind of similar to museum passes. If a lot of the libraries on the East Coast are calling them museum passes, but Michigan has their MAP program. It's very similar to that. So that's our main focus right now. We are collecting feedback from the beta testers, and after kind of start of springtime is when we will start making the changes and taking the feedback that they've given us to kind of enhance it, and then it will come live. So I don't have a specific time, but I would say probably summer would be when that's available for all of you. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I think we are about at time. We have a couple extra minutes, but if there's not many more questions, then I will not take up any more of your time. If there is anything that, if you're already a current customer, like Katie, I know you asked some questions today, which I appreciate, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. You can reach out to me. You have my contact information. If you're new here and you are interested in learning a little bit more about Localhop or diving deeper into maybe some specific questions or questions that are specific to your library and how you operate, you can reach out to Fadi. Fadi, if you want to kind of introduce yourself real quick and maybe put your email in the chat.
Yes, hi guys. So my name is Fadi. I pretty much handle the business development with Localhop. I put my contact information at the top, but I will resend it, as well as I'm going to put in a link, and that link will go directly to my calendar. So if you guys wanted to schedule one-on-one with me or with your team and myself, feel free to do that as well. So that's the link to my calendar schedule, and then again, that is my direct line with my email.
Great, thanks, Fadi. Awesome. All right, well, thank you guys for bearing with me and going through that whole demo. I know it was a lot. So feel free to reach out to us with any other questions or to set up a demo with Fadi. Otherwise, I won't take up any more of your day. I hope you enjoy the rest of it. And again, thank you for joining.